of the most asked questions I get is, are there still cheap houses available in Spain? And this question might come from people who mean cheap as in the price that I paid for my homes, which is between 5 and 20,000. I'll talk a little bit about that. Or maybe they just mean relatively cheap in comparison to where they live. And so today I want to talk about just my thoughts on the state of the real estate market in Spain and maybe what you could consider if you're looking for a home in Spain. Hi, my name is Nicole. Welcome to my channel, Travel to Money, where I share about how to travel, adventure, and have fun on the road to financial independence. So a little bit about my background, if you're not familiar, is that I purchased my first house in Spain back in 2018, so it's been a while now. I found that house on idealista.com for just under 20,000 euro. I couldn't believe it, honestly. It was this really beautiful 3-story townhome, and it had incredible views, and I was really drawn to the views. That's what I was looking for. It needed a little bit of work, but it was livable at the time. And so I'll be honest, I haven't seen a lot of homes, even especially in that state, around that price. The homes that I've continued to see since then in that price range are going to need a lot more renovation, or maybe they are occupied by squatters. And so there are situations where I have continued over the years to see lower house prices. But I do think, and I think it's reasonable to say, I had a pretty great find. Now that also depends on what you consider to be a great find, because if you've followed my channel for any time at all and watched any of my videos about my homes in Spain, you'll know that I don't live on the best street in Spain. And so for some people, that's not worth it, no matter what the cost is, no matter how cheap it is. We know what people say about location, location, location. And I agree with that to some degree. However, I'm also really happy with my homes, even in the situation on the street as it is. Just to give you a little bit of backdrop on that, my street, it has about half of it is expats or immigrants coming from other countries. We've got people from the United Kingdom, we've got people from Australia, from all over different parts of Europe, from the United States. I mean, you name it, we have a very diverse community on our street, which is awesome. The other half of the homes on the street are occupied by Romani people, sometimes referred to as gypsies, which I understand is considered to be a derogatory term now. I'm not trying to use any of the wrong words. I'm just trying to help you understand what I'm talking about, right? And so these folks, some of the people in that community on my street are wonderful, and they're great neighbors, and they have beautiful homes, and they're just like anyone else, except that they unfortunately have to deal with being outcast in the general community, not their community. And that's unfortunate, because they're living above what the stereotype is, but they still have a lot of the impact of the stereotype. Unfortunately, there are some people on that street that live up to the stereotype, and they can be frustrating. However, to me, it's not an unsafe place to live, which was my biggest concern. And I asked the agent, when I called to ask about the house, he told me he was trying to get me to look at other homes and not that one. And I was like, well, this is the one that I have the money for. And he was like, okay, well, this is the house for you. I was like, but is it safe? And he was like, yes, it's safe. Like, you're not unsafe. That has been true. However, I do see the difficulties of living on that street, and I'm not unaware of that. However, I think that I still have a really great community there, and I love it, and I love my home, and I don't regret the purchases that I make. All of that to say, it's not for everyone, right? And some people would say, even for 20,000 euros, that wasn't worth it. For me, it was worth it. I think for some people, it would be worth it. All just depends on what you're looking for, right? And so I get sometimes people reaching out to me and saying, I have $15,000. Can you help me find a house? The other two homes I also bought on that street. One I got for 5,000 euro, and that was a derelict next door to my original home. I no longer own that home. I sold it to a friend on the street, and that's been great. But the only reason I sold that one is the same reason I sold the first one, because I was buying the third one and wanting to renovate it and needed the money to be able to do that. I am not a wealthy investor. I was just someone who started with very little and has figured out how to make that work. And so if you followed in the recent years, you've seen that I've been renovating the house that I got for 9,000 euros. So 3 different homes, 20,000, 5,000, 9,000. And that seems, it's kind of crazy. It's crazy to me. And I don't think that that is the story that everyone will have. So what I'm not trying to say is, come to Spain. You can find a house for 10,000 euro. I love Spain though, and I do think it's affordable. I have a lot of thoughts about where to buy, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today, but also kind of help you think about the pricing as it pertains to your situation. So if you came to me and there was a house similar to the one that I bought for 9,000 euro, and you said, I have 15,000 euro, that's all I have, it's my life savings, I want to go buy this 9,000 euro house, I would say, don't do that. I haven't done a full cost analysis, and I'm getting to that in the next couple of months, but I'm pretty sure we've spent about 60,000, maybe even 70,000 euro on the renovation of that house. I don't know yet. I was thinking initially it was going to be like 20. Now, some of that is my choices. You wouldn't have needed to do all of that. You could have probably made it livable for 15 to 20,000. It's because I made some bigger choices, some long-term choices that were more expensive. So I would say that whatever you're going in at, if you find a home, don't buy something that is going to spend up all of your savings. And that goes for anything, anywhere, right? You want to be mindful of other costs, what it's going to cost in the purchase process, which isn't too extravagant, especially for an inexpensive home. But, you know, if you don't have the extra 5,000 or 10,000 or 15,000 it's going to cost to just close on the home, well, that's something to think about. And then you need to think about renovations, and you need to think about furnishing just like you would anywhere else. Now, are there cheap homes? Yes, there are cheap homes, depending on where you're looking. Now, are you going to find a 10,000 euro home in Barcelona? Probably not. And I would advise you not to move to Barcelona anyway. So I want to talk about that for a second here, because I feel like we do have some responsibility to think about what's happening in the country and what matters for the people. And we know, if you've paid any attention and you're watching the news, or you're kind of plugged into what's going on in Spain, you know that there are too many tourists in some of these areas. There are too many expats in some of these areas, like Barcelona, like Madrid. Where I tend to be different is that because, you know, no matter which way I talk about things, I'm going to get people that have a problem. You know, I'm going to have Spaniards come on to my YouTube videos and they're going to leave really mean, nasty comments sometimes. Not all the time. They're lovely people too. But they're angry. They're angry that people are coming and buying homes. We know that areas like Barcelona and Madrid are overrun by tourists and by people coming to live. It's too many, and it really impacted the culture and the people who live there. And I think all of us, no matter where you're from, I really subscribe more to the idea of being a citizen of the world. And I appreciate the rights that I have to be able to go and buy a home in Spain. I'm thankful for that. And yet I don't want to come in and just say, well, I'm just going to live wherever I want. And I didn't know that back when I bought a house, but I've learned that since then. And so I want to help other people just be mindful of that. And I personally wouldn't want to live in an area where I'm not wanted, right? And so it's not that those places aren't wonderful, but Spain is beautiful everywhere. And there are places where you can live where you can make an impact. So I live in a small town where it was formed by the agriculture community, right? And they're no longer making money in that way anymore. And the younger people in the families are growing up and moving into the bigger cities. And these small towns, if they are not intentional, are dying. And so the town that I live in is looking for people to move there. They are looking for tourists to want to come there because we're about 20 to 30 minutes inland from the beach. So the beach area is just super touristy from top to bottom all the way down. But if you come inland to some of these towns, they are looking for tourism. They're looking to grow that, and they're being intentional about it. I'm thankful that I am in a town that is intentional, that is making progress, and that wants me to be there. For the most part, I mean, you're going to have people that fall on both sides of the spectrum no matter where you are. That's just kind of, and I don't just mean in Spain, right? That's going to be anywhere. But I do think it's important to be intentional and to try to really be thoughtful about not just what you want, but what's good for the community that you're going to go and be a part of. And the cool thing is that if you are looking at those communities, that's where you're going to find the best deals anyway, because they are looking to incentivize people to be there. But if you're looking for a home that is going to be in the 5,000 to 20,000 euro range, I think that's a difficult find. And in most cases, it's going to require a lot of money afterward. And so it's not always going to be worth the trade-off. That doesn't mean there aren't some great deals that you might be able to find in that range. But I would focus more on the $20,000 to $100,000 range. And maybe that range is a little too big for some people. I think that's still relative to like what we would spend in the US. What you can get a house for there is going to be a lot more affordable. I also think there is some reasonable consideration. Like for me, I spent $9,000 on the house, but about $15,000 after taxes. So if you're going to buy a renovation project, you should really consider not just the initial price of the home, but what that's going to cost you and whether or not you have the time in order to really do that, because time can be money too. Not in every situation. If you're chill and you've got some years to put into that, that's great. I would caution that if you're going to take on a renovation project, that you need to have incredible patience and that you really shouldn't have a set timeline. And whatever you're thinking that timeline should be, you might want to double or triple it. There can be a lot of bureaucracy involved, and although things sometimes can go at a great pace, you should just prepare for it to be longer than whatever it is you're anticipating, and prepare to not feel frustrated by that, because it's going to be a lot easier for you if you expect that. And so that's kind of my caution regarding renovation projects. You may also want to think about if you're going to spend 20 or 30,000 euro buying a home, but it's going to cost you 70,000 to renovate it, what instead could you get for 100,000? And it might be closer to a turnkey that maybe just needs a little bit of updating. So that's something to consider. I do think housing prices overall have been trending up over the last few years, just like everywhere else. Again, relative to what we spend in the United States, still very reasonable. Just depending on what you're looking for. So you're going to have everything. I think your best deals are usually going to be apartments that are similar to condos, but with much lower fees than what you would pay on a condo here. But you're going to have some, I forget what it's called there, but it's similar to a homeowners association. So you're going to have some rules and things that come with that. Might be harder if you're looking to do a rental or something of that sort. Then you're going to have your townhomes. Those are the homes that I have had. They're townhomes, so you're sharing the sides of your homes with other people. Typically, these are not townhomes that all look the same. Many of these are the older homes in some of these small towns, even in the cities, and they've just been built kind of up on each other. And so I think some of the good deals are also going to be looking at those. If you're looking for a house that's an independent structure, I think probably going to be a little bit more expensive, but still really reasonable. I've seen beautiful villas between 1 and 200,000 that overlook the sea and maybe have a pool. And so there can be really reasonable homes considering what you're getting for the money. I have been accused in comments, whether it's on Instagram or on YouTube, of being a liar because people are saying that there's no way that I bought my homes for the prices that I bought them for. And first of all, it's always really interesting to take in the comments from so many different people. I read all of them, and as a human being, that can be hard to process sometimes, especially when people are calling you things like a liar. Some of the similar comments to that might be someone saying, I just went online and I looked and there are no houses in that price range. And I'm thinking, well, it's not like there's a website that has hundreds of homes in Spain for 10,000 euro or 20,000 euro. I think what I found was really rare. But I would also say if you're looking for those really special deals, most of the time you're not going to find them just sitting on a website. Those are going to be deals that you've made through relationships, meeting people. The two houses that I purchased next after my first house, the one for 5,000 and the one for 9,000, are solely because of relationships I had with people. One of my neighbors told me the house next door from me was for sale. It was initially for sale for 10,000 euro. And I was like, what? I don't have 10,000 euro to spend and I'm not really looking for a big project right now. But when he lowered it to 5,000, I was like, I can't really pass that up. But I didn't see that advertised anywhere. It was literally something I found out about through a WhatsApp group. The second house that I bought for 9,000, it had started at 40 something thousand, was lowered to 18, and was never advertised at 9,000. It was advertised at 18. And it was my friend who knew the real estate agent who then called me and said, hey, she told me I could have it for 9,000. That's how I ended up getting that house, not because it was advertised for 9,000. And so I think you have to keep in mind negotiations. You have to keep in mind just relationship building, knowing people in the communities. And you also have to keep in mind that in Spain, there's not this big MLS database where everything gets listed the same to a bunch of different websites. I've got another video about that where I talk about just real estate in Spain, and it's sort of like the Wild Wild West. There are no regulations. Absolutely anyone can be a real estate agent, and there's not a lot of exclusivity when it comes to the listings, and so you might see the same place listed 4 or 5 different times with different prices. It's not the same as what we have in the US for sure, and you have to kind of do a little more hunting. You're not going to find everything on one website. I do use Idealista.com a lot. You've heard me talk about it a lot on my channel, where I'm looking at listings to get an idea. So I use that site to get an idea. What are the price ranges in this particular area? But I think you'll find a lot of local real estate agents with their own websites. And so once you kind of narrow down an area, I would look at some of those sites. I'd look on Facebook Marketplace. And I would put some information out there in Facebook groups, say, hey, I'm looking. Does anyone know of any different places? I'm looking for X, Y, and Z. Just get to know people and get out there in the community if you're really wanting to find that steal of a deal. However, I really don't think you need a steal of a deal to get a good deal in Spain. And again, I would say those good deals you can find between the $20,000 and $100,000 range. I just wouldn't be holding too tight to the idea of something between 5,000 and 20,000 because that's not going to happen for most people. I really hope this information has been helpful for you. Just some food for thought if you're thinking about buying a house in Spain. And if you're looking to buy a house, I do offer coaching that's specifically about just the process of buying a house in Spain. And through that coaching, I give you access to my different referrals, which are specifically helpful if you are in the Valencian community of Spain, which includes like Valencia, Alicante, and all of that Costa Blanca region. You can find more details about that at traveltomoney.com/coaching. I always love meeting and getting to know people and hearing their stories. Sometimes people book those sessions with other questions, like about visas, which I'm not an expert in, you're welcome to ask me anything. I just want you to know that that's specifically about just the process of buying a home in Spain. And you're welcome to ask any other questions. I just can't promise that I'm an expert in those other areas. Anyhow, thank you so much for watching this video, for being here, being a part of this community and channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback. Do me a huge favor, like this video and subscribe to join me every day where travel and adventure build financial freedom. I can't wait to see where your dreams will take you.